Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take stacks of information and really try to pull out those essential nuggets for you.
That's the goal.
And today we're plunging into a story that's, well, it's quite a head-scratcher out of Hollywood. Imagine this, a film starring one of the most revered actors ever, Academy Award winner, tons of critical hits.
A true icon.
Right. Now, picture that same actor hitting a career first.
Yeah.
And not a good one, a really unfortunate one.
That's exactly right. Our mission today is to unpack how a film with Al Pacino, a legend, managed to debut with that incredibly rare 0% score on Rotten Tomatoes.
0%.
Zero. And we're pulling from a CBR article that covered this, plus specific critic reviews and even some, interesting audience reactions to give you the whole picture.
So what does this tell us about filmmaking, about expectations, maybe how we even judge art?
Let's dive in and find out.
Okay, let's unpack this. So first, a bit of context, right? Al Pacino, undeniably one of the greats.
Absolutely, no question.
We're talking over 60 acting credits, masterpieces, The Godfather, Serpico. The list goes on. He's got, 9 Academy Award nominations for Best Actor, 1 for Scent of a Woman.
Yep, back in '92.
His career is just packed with critical hits, so For him to get a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, it's like the article says, an unfortunate career first.
And it's seriously rare for any film to land a 0%, especially once you get more than, say, 10 reviews in.
Right.
The Ritual hit this unwanted milestone with 0% from 26 reviews right before its general release.
26. Wow.
And what's really interesting here is it actually bumps his previous lowest rated film, which was Jack and Jill from 2011.
Oh, Jack and Jill.
So this now takes that spot. And while, scores can change, that initial 0 is, well, it's definitely a statement. It makes it a real critical anomaly.
So what is this film, the one that got this dubious distinction?
Okay, so it's a horror movie called The Ritual.
Right, The Ritual.
And it centers on a possession story, directed by David Medell, who also co-wrote it with Enrico Natali.
Okay, possession story. But here's where it gets kind of interesting, right? It's supposedly inspired by a 1935 book, Begone Satan.
Yeah, and it's even said to be based on a true story, which, adds another layer.
Definitely.
The plot basically follows Pacino's character, Father Theophilus Reisinger, and he's working alongside Father Joseph Steiger, played by Dan Stevens.
Dan Stevens, okay.
And there are these two priests, kind of different, try and put that aside, to save this young woman, Emma Schmidt, played by Abigail Cowan, who's allegedly possessed.
Through, dangerous exorcisms, I assume?
Exactly. A series of dangerous exorcisms. And the cast also has, some familiar faces. Ashley Greene from Twilight is in it.
Oh, right.
Patrick Fabian from Better Call Saul. Patricia Heaton from Everybody Loves Raymond.
Wow, quite a mix. How long is it?
Runs about 98 minutes. Standard length, pretty much.
Okay, and originally, The Ritual, it was supposed to come out sooner, wasn't it? April?
Yeah, April 18th was the plan, but it got pushed back to June 6th, 2025 for the U.S. release. It actually opened a bit earlier in the U.K. and Ireland, May 30th.
Gotcha. And even with that 0% from critics, you mentioned it already has an IMDb score.
It does. It's sitting at a 4.6 on IMDb.
4.6. Okay, that's different.
Well, and that 4.6 is a really interesting counterpoint, isn't it? Because Rotten Tomatoes, it aggregates professional critics, gives that fresh or rotten score based on the percentage of positive reviews.
Yeah.
It's kind of a pass-fail.
Right, binary.
Exactly. Whereas IMDb, that's driven by individual audience ratings, averaged out on a 1 to 10 scale.
So different groups, different measurements.
Totally different barometers, which helps explain why you can get these really dramatic differences in scores sometimes.
Okay, that makes sense. So knowing that, the big question then is, what did the critics find so bad about The Ritual? What led to that unanimous 0%?
Well, connecting the dots from the reviews, the overwhelming consensus was that The Ritual just brings absolutely nothing new to the whole possession horror subgenre.
Okay, nothing new.
Yeah, and almost everyone pointed out the, let's say, unfavorable comparison to The Exorcist. They felt it was just retreading old ground without adding anything, fresh or innovative.
And they didn't exactly hold back, did they?
No, not at all.
I saw the New York Times' Glenn Kenny just wrote, simply, just watch The Exorcist again.
Ouch.
And the Hollywood Reporter's Frank Scheck was even more cutting. He said, "Stop me if you've heard this one before. No, I mean it. Stop me."
Wow.
Because clearly no one has stopped The Ritual, yet another attempt that tries and fails to exercise our memories of the classic gold standard of the genre, William Friedkin's 1973 The Exorcist. Yeah, that sums it up. Deja vu seems to be the feeling.
That's really the common thread, isn't it? This feeling of repetition, this failure to innovate in a genre that, probably needs it to stay interesting. Yep. Bloody Disgusting's Megan Navarro went further, explaining that this, based on a true story horror movie, fails to evoke any emotion as it sleepwalks through a tired recreation of an exorcism movie's third act.
Sleepwalks.
Committing the ultimate cardinal sin in cinema. So not just bad, but boring. Which for horror might be worse.
Yeah, boring is death for horror.
Exactly. And Richard Krause even admitted there's maybe a certain camp appeal in Al Pacino hollering, "Attention, Beelzebub," as he summons Emma's inner demon.
Okay, I can almost picture that.
But even that is not enough to earn the ritual to recommend. So even the potentially fun bits weren't enough.
And some critics got really specific, didn't they? Even about how the film looked.
Yeah, they did.
Robert Kojder from Flickering Myth argued, "The ritual is abysmal and doesn't even have the good sense to make this guilty pleasure entertainment by having Al Pacino ham it up, casting out demons in full Huach Dunkachino mode."
Huh. So not even fun bad, according to him.
Apparently not. And Mike McGranahan from Aisle Seat had this observation that really stuck with me. He said, "The ritual is photographed like an episode of The Office, with shaky handheld camera moves and frequent uses of quick zooms into a character's face."
Like The Office.
Sure.
Seriously.
Yeah. He finished by saying, "I kept expecting Al Pacino to look directly into the lens for a John Krasinski-type reaction shot."
Wow. That's quite the visual comparison for an exorcism movie.
Isn't it? It paints a picture, all right.
That sounds like the film really missed the mark, not just on the genre stuff, but on, basic cinematic execution too, even with Pacino involved.
Yeah, seems like it.
But, like we said, there's that 4.6 IMDb score.
Mm-hmm.
And the audience comments. They tell a very different story.
Right, the other side of the coin.
We saw some interesting ones in the source material. Like, one user, George, just flat out stated, "If the critics don't like it, it's most likely a good movie."
Okay, the anti-critic take.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And another, Anaya, directly disagreed with the reviews, saying, "I disagree. Al Pacino was phenomenal. I really enjoy watching him play his role. Patricia Heaton was also great. Great cast of actors. It was a great movie."
So, completely opposite reaction there. Found it great.
Exactly. A clear disconnect.
And there was also someone clarifying that point about Pacino and horror, pointing out that, some people might think of The Devil's Advocate, but this article is specifically about The Ritual being his first 0% score.
Right. That's an important distinction. The Devil's Advocate certainly wasn't a 0%.
Not at all. And then another user, Sid, kind of zoomed out and made a broader point about the genre itself.
Oh, yeah. What did Sid say?
Suggested they should maybe stop making movies in this genre just in general, honestly.
Whoa, okay. Strong take.
Yeah, adding, the only reason anyone makes them these days is because they're cheap and easy to make a profit through selling to Tubi and Sci-Fi, LOL.
Huh. So, kind of cynical about the whole possession genre's economics.
Seems that way.
So we've got these wildly different reactions, don't we? You have the critics just universally panning at 0%. Then you have audience members, some at least, saying, "No, I liked it, Pacino was great," or even critics are wrong. What do you think is going on there? Why such a split?
It is fascinating, isn't it? I wonder if, for some viewers, just seeing an icon like Pacino is enough. Or maybe the straightforward nature of a possession story, even if it's familiar, is comforting.
Could be.
Like maybe they're just looking for that specific kind of genre entertainment, and it delivered that for them, even if it didn't, break any new ground artistically.
I think that's exactly right. What this often highlights is just the fundamental difference in what people are looking for, right?
Yep.
Critics generally are looking at artistic innovation, technical skill, how it fits into the genre's history.
Yeah, the bigger picture.
Right. Audiences, though, might just value pure entertainment or the star power or even just the comfort of seeing those familiar horror tropes play out, even if they're not original.
So it's not like one side is right and the other wrong.
Not necessarily. It's just different criteria for judging success.
Mm.
And you definitely see that anti-critic vibe sometimes too, like that comment from George. Maybe a distrust of reviews, or just wanted to champion something you liked personally.
And that comment from Sid about horror being cheap and easy, that's interesting, too. Does that maybe lower audience expectations sometimes?
That's a really perceptive point.
Like, are people more forgiving if they think, oh, it's just a cheap horror flick compared to how critics might judge it?
I think that definitely plays a role. That whole guilty pleasure idea, or the fact that some films maybe feel more like disposable entertainment rather than high art.
Right.
So if a movie like The Ritual hits those basic genre notes, for some viewers you get Pacino, you get an exorcism, maybe that's enough, even if critics see it as, completely derivative or poorly made. It finds its audience that way.
So we end up with this really interesting paradox. You've got a cinematic giant, Al Pacino, in a film that hits this incredibly rare 0% critical score.
Total critical failure by that metric.
But then you have audience members who clearly enjoyed it, found things to praise, gave it that 4.6 on IMDb.
So this deep dive into the ritual really brings up that big ongoing question in cinema, doesn't it? What actually defines good or bad art?
Yeah.
And the question for you listening to all this isn't just what defines bad cinema, but maybe who gets to define it. Is it the critics with their structured analysis? Is it the audience with their gut reactions and ratings? Or is it some kind of mix? And what does it really mean when a film, especially one starring a legend, becomes this kind of litmus test for those very different ways we judge movies?
No.
Definitely something for you to mull over.